Check it out.
Glad to see you all here, and welcome to probably one of the most, a discussion of probably one of the most divisive eras of Transformers history, and that is the Unicron Trilogy. For those who don't know who we are, I am Brad Burns, the editor and co-host of the co-creator and host of the YTV Retrospective.
And I'm Peter Banting. I am the co-producer and co-writer of the series. And I occasionally appear on the show now and again.
So we are a monthly fan-made retrospective series that discusses these shows and everything in between that made YTV so well known. And for those wondering, we are not affiliated to YTV or their parent company, Course Entertainment, in any way, shape, or form. So we have done around 34 episodes so far in the series, this monthly series, there we go. And we are on episode 35, which next year, YTV will be also turning 35 as well.
That's right.
And that will be the Unicron Trilogy.
So with that said, what exactly is the Unicron Trilogy? You know, with a trilogy of shows that aired between 2002, 2003, 2006, that all shared the same timeline.
And it did not share any continuity with any seasons prior or after.
Yeah,
so nothing between Generation 1, no Beast Wars. It was its own beast.
It was starting from scratch.
Basically. A kind of reboot, if you will. And today, you guys get to see an exclusive premiere of this episode, which will be out at the end of the month. And with that said, let's begin. So what'd you guys think? All right. So you guys got to see it first here today, and it will be out. Oh, give me a second. Next slide. It'll be out on July 31st, 2022. So you guys get to see it on YouTube by then. So with that said, we have a Q&A. So if you guys want to come up, so if you're looking for any questions about the Unicron Trilogy, you can go to Pete. If you have any conversation or any topic about the YTV Retrospective, you can come up to me.
Do you want me to use this microphone?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, come on up. Anybody? I take it you have a YouTube channel?
Yes, I do.
All right, I am unfamiliar with what's going on. That couch was giving me Nostalgia Critic vibes right there.
That's fair.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Which character from either of these shows would you like to see more of in the future of Transformers, and why is it Sideways?
I mean, it's an interesting character, like a double agent. He's like manipulating both sides for his own benefit. Just a unique character on his own. I wish they did something with him in the movies.
Yeah.
Just, middle.
It would be nice if they actually did more with Sideways in later years. And I mean, especially given the fact that Legacy is giving much more representation with Armada as well as Cybertron in recent years. It would be fantastic if they did that.
Hoping for Titan-class tidal wave.
Yeah.
So I know you touched on this a little bit in your presentation, but the dubs versus the Japanese releases. You mentioned that the voice talent for the dubs was very good, but the scripts were obviously on the rougher side.
Yeah.
Which do you prefer overall? Would you prefer watching the subtitled Japanese release, or would you prefer watching the dubs for each of the series?
I think it depends on the series itself. Like sometimes you kind of get a series that's actually good on one side, then maybe a better sub or dub on the other. For me, it all kind of depends on the series or what I kind of get exposed to first. like for example, like with Dragon Ball, like that's kind of a good example for me. I usually kind of prefer the English dub over the subs. And then sometimes, like for, say, I'm trying to think of a good one that I usually kind of prefer the subs. Ooh, that's a good one. What was it? Like a recent anime, actually, that I've been watching recently, Ranking of Kings. I remember watching a little bit of the dub of that. It just kind of sounded, like to me, it sounded a bit off. But like hearing the sub version, for me, it sounded a lot better. What do you think?
Well, I kind of prefer dubs on account of I like to watch the show instead of reading it because you kind of miss something if you're like paying more attention to the subtitles. It's just my own preference.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the performance in the Japanese release, like for like the Dragon Ball, like the voice actors for Goku. That's just so good.
Yeah, that makes sense. I generally prefer the dubs as well. Just it's a little more fluid to watch, but sometimes the scripts just aren't there. The translation just doesn't hold up.
Yeah, it's always an interesting like conversation like to kind of go between subs versus dubs. It's always been kind of like interesting, like depending on which series you kind of go to.
It's a perspective. It's like preference.
Yeah, it's always preference to the person themselves, to each their own, basically.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No problem.
All right, I know you guys said that here in Canada, the Unicron Trilogy aired on Tubi TV?
Here in Canada, it aired on YTV.
YTV.
Yeah, it's just available for streaming on Tubi.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I know when it was originally out in the States, and I use air quotes, was supposed to air on Cartoon Network, but its airing was incredibly spotty.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel that's probably one of the reasons why it might not be one of the more light Transformer series, because there was no consistency of when you could watch it. Because one week you may get, a couple months of episode after episode, and then we would go 2 months before we would see a new episode, or they would change the airing date to a time to where you didn't even realize the thing was on anymore. So I know with myself, I didn't even pass Armada. I barely know anything about Cybertron and Energon, and it had more to do with when it aired. Mm-hmm. So in Canada, did it have a more consistent airing schedule?
I think it had a more consistent schedule, basically. We said earlier that it was like it started more Saturday mornings, basically, with Vortex, the Saturday morning block at the time. But when it got to Cybertron, it changed to about around 12:30 or noon.
Like early afternoon.
Like around the same time as Pokemon, basically, for us up here.
Okay.
But I think also, and I kind of noticed this with the States as well, from what I've heard, Cartoon Network originally aired Transformers Cybertron for a point in time, and then after I think a few months or so, they aired it more on Kids WB during the afternoons. So it's definitely I kind of agree that the consistency might have been a major issue, I think, with the series.
Yeah. 'Cause when Armada started, it was an evening show, like on Thursdays at like 8 p.m.
Yeah, it was on Toonami.
Like it was, I think like it was either before, or during Toonami, yeah.
No, it's actually, I don't even think it was part of Toonami itself at all. It was just like they had 8 o'clock airings of the He-Man, Armada.
I'm pretty sure it
and-
did air on Toonami because they did a promo with Peter Cullen narrating it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, a long time ago, can't really remember. I just know that the airing of all of them were just terrible. So. All right, thanks.
No problem.
What's your opinion on how Transformers Prime used Unicron as a driving force in the plot?
Whoa, what was that? Sorry about that.
So could you please repeat that question? We can.
What's your opinion on how Transformers Prime used Unicron as a driving force in the plot?
So using Unicron in the trilogy, you mean?
How was he as a villain?
Oh, in Prime. Well, I think that when it first was going, I think it kind of premature having him the antagonist, like the big bad of the season 1 finale.
And then having
But
him still
then
be
they
relevant?
kind of worked him back in at the finale of the series with him possessing Megatron. I think, they brought him back. Good for them. Like, and they actually did something pretty interesting with him, with like possessing Megatron, resurrecting dead Predacons, and tried to destroy the core of Cybertron. It was
Yeah, it seemed like kind of like a weird retcon that they would do for like the later seasons. But like I think at that point in time, like I think it was kind of a welcome addition, like for the first season.
and the whole fact that they made Unicron the core of Earth, that was what?
I wonder if they were kind of using that for like the Transformers: The Last Night, like that big cliffhanger.
Yeah, that's what they were going for
Yeah.
last night.
Yeah, it would have been interesting. I'm glad they kind of explored it maybe a bit more for Prime, but it would have been kind of weird if they were going to explore it a bit more in the movie.
They didn't
just-
do anything
yep.
with the movie. Let's just reboot the whole thing and make a far better movie with Bumblebee.
Yeah.
I just wish they were more consistent with it.
Yeah.
All right, so what's your personal favorite out of the trilogy?
Well, I think personally, I liked Cybertron because it was just like a bit more of a, I guess a bit more characters and with the characters, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, like, Cybertron, I agree, is probably the best of the trilogy. Because I feel like, especially with Cybertron, they did a lot more when it came to character growth. Like, the two that I can think of on the top of my head would be Hotshot's development on Velocitron, as well as
Overhaul.
Overhaul. There we
Becoming
go.
Leo Breaker.
Yeah, developing and basically becoming Leo Breaker, and kind of having basically, like trying to work together with Optimus Prime.
And Starscream actually one-upping Megatron and becoming almost godlike.
To the point, to the point where they actually made a Supreme Class version of the figure, which is a really cool figure in of itself. Give me a second.
And the Sideways was actually pretty interesting because, yeah, I like the Sideways from Cybertron.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah, guys, yeah, especially like with Ted Cole's performance, it was
Yeah.
just fun.
Yeah, he was good.
Yep.
And actually, it was like Cybertron was the only series I actually rewatched all through because I couldn't do it with Armada, and there's no way I can do it with Energon.
Yeah.
Hello. I had two questions. So the first one, in a number of medias, like for example the old IDW comic books, we saw some of the Unicron Trilogy characters in the backgrounds, like say Cyclonus, Demolisher, Armada, Megatron. So I was wondering, wanted to hear some of your thoughts about should we eventually just work in the entire Armada cast into like some sort of an overreaching narrative on a bigger scale, or should they really just stay like their own
Well,
separate
if they're
thing?
gonna, I think, because I guess it was just what they did with like Tidal Wave for those Wreckers comics. I think that was like a good use of the character. Like they're just, as long as they're not like the legacy characters, like they're like it's kind of fair game.
Like I can kind of see it like kind of being similar to that of like with the Beast War characters going on with like the Kingdom trilogy or the War for Cybertron trilogy.
Yeah.
Like kind of remaking the idea of these characters to an extent, but make a new story about it basically.
Yeah, and he has not read the IDW comics.
No,
Yeah, he's
first volume, but
Yeah.
I definitely got the comics actually this weekend. So
And the second question I had, do you think it would be a good idea for the franchise to see more parts of it try to break away from Generation 1 as much as possible, like, say, the Unicron Trilogy, Transformers Animated, Prime, and all the others?
And I guess it depends on, because I think like the Generation 1 was like the original, and they just wanted to get some.
We'll just keep on coming back to it.
Yeah, it's just a.
like at some point, like they probably like should like kind of go forward to an extent. And I think we're starting to get that, especially when you look at toy lines like Legacy, where they're focusing on more aspects of the franchise. Like especially, you got the RC from Prime, you got Override from Cybertron, and also Metroplex.
And some more Beast War characters.
Yeah. So it would be interesting if they kind of went more that route.
I see. All right. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Hey
Hi,
guys,
Goober.
how's it going? Hi. I actually really have never really sat and watched through the whole Armada, Energon, Cybertron series, and for a long time I didn't even know that they were linked through like the Unicron thing. I did like when people started referring to it as the Unicron Trilogy. I was like, what's that? I didn't know what that was until a while ago, and but even now like. Does Unicron have a strong presence throughout the entire, all three of those shows, or is he? Because
in Armada, Unicron was like the big bad at the end, and he was the creator of the minicons. In Energon, the Alpha Quintessons trying to bring him back in order to manipulate him into restoring the world they destroyed. But then Megatron comes along and takes control. And he's ultimately destroyed at the end of Energon, because he's like Spark is trapped in a sun.
I remember that.
And then in Cybertron, the sun collapsed on itself, destroying Unicron's Spark, and that's what creates the black hole.
Okay, and then but was there a Unicron threat in Cybertron as well, or was it just the black hole
the
thing?
black hole was
Okay.
Unicron threat.
Okay.
Like basically they had to rework they had to rework what the Japanese series was, which was Galaxy Force, which was completely separate from the other two series.
I think it was intended to be the third part, but then the Japanese changed their minds and tried to make it their own thing, and then the U.S. tried to change it to work into the trilogy.
Oh,
And
okay.
there was a bit of a mess there.
So then, because the storylines for the U.S. and Japanese version of Cybertron are quite different.
Yeah, originally but I think as time went on, the Japanese series kind of retconned stuff to make it fit into the Unicron trilogy.
Which would you say is better to watch, the U.S. version or Japanese version of Cybertron?
I don't know. I have never seen the Japanese one.
Oh, okay.
So I'd probably say the English dub, I think, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. I think that's it. I just wanted to cool. Thanks, guys.
No problem.
You guys are awesome.
And you can add. We don't have to answer Transformer questions. You can ask about our show and YTV in general. You'll take those kind of questions too.
Why is the sky blue? Just any questions? Yeah.
Favorite YTV host who isn't Phil?
Ooh, okay. Favorite host that isn't Phil. Okay.
I like
Or
Sugar.
Snit.
Oh.
Or Snit. Snit doesn't count either.
I like Sugar.
Yeah. I'd probably say, Sugar and Carlos, I think, was a good pair for when they were, basically.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember Todd?
Todd. That was late. That was late into Phil's era, basically. Right near the very end.
Do you remember Jen when she was on YTV?
Yes.
Okay. You guys have street cred.
Oh, is that it? Is that all the questions? No one's got any more questions? Wow, that bums me out. So I guess we'll just have to continue on.
Yeah. We got a question.
Someone.
We got a
Oh,
question.
thank God.
Sorry, I missed the very beginning. So what is your show?
So we showed basically the episode about the Unicron Trilogy that is going to be up on YouTube on July 31st. So we'll be discussing the entire trilogy as a whole, and also kind of what came before and what kind of came after.
Yeah, no, but what is your show on you?
The YTV Retrospective. We review shows and stuff that revolve around YTV.
Oh, I can actually show. Let me show the episodes. So
Those are all the episodes that we've done so far.
Yep, so our series is a once-a-month series, basically, that discusses basically a lot of shows that happened in YTV's history and everything in between, so blocks as well as Christmas specials as well, so.
Cool, thank you.
No problem.
Right, so at a certain point in the history of that network, they sort of shifted away from showing animation and started to go more into live action kids program kind of things that Nickelodeon was showing in the States. I wonder if you had any insight into if there were decisions made regarding that, because I think a lot of people, and even people that were outside of the demographic on YTV, really appreciated being able to watch a lot of those action-adventure cartoons like Justice League and Transformers and all the anime that they would show, like Inuyasha. They even showed Ghost in the Shell. Like, how was that even a thing? And that it all went away, and what's the deal?
It's kind of interesting, because I think by roughly around 2010, I think they were more focusing on, like, they were changing up the age demographic. So instead of going for kind of a network that was meant to be kind of for a family audience, so like just young or old, because especially during the 90s, they were kind of more focusing on shows that was kind of a perfect balance, where you had like a whole block devoted to preschool, and then you have like after school, and then you also have like the nostalgic shows for kind of like even older adults. What makes it interesting is that basically the age demographic more or less changed to kind of more fit with kind of what was kind of going on at the time. So basically, I think it was like 7 to 10, I believe they were kind of going, 7 to 10 year olds.
For like a teenage demographic?
Like they kind of stopped, I think, that around 2010 to kind of focus more on just kind of kids at that point. So by that point, Bionic stopped, which was the big teen anime block at the time. And since then, 2014, all the anime, including Transformers, moved over to Teletoon. So Teletoon kind of got everything all at that point, which at that point made perfect sense, because it was an animation station. Whereas YTV started to kind of go more towards live action, basically.
So is that like part of the reason why? Because they had Teletoon under the same umbrella, they could shift to there?
Like before, like Teletoon and YTV were owned by different companies.
Yes.
Yeah. And then they're both Chorus now, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
along with Family Channel as well.
Oh.
Or was it Family?
And the Disney Channel. Like the Canadian Disney Channel.
Yeah, and also our version of Nickelodeon. So we got YTV and basically Nickelodeon.
It's sounding like a monopoly now.
Kind of, yeah.
Wow, thanks.
No problem.
We are at the 10-minute mark, so if you had a burning question that you were dying to know, come on up.
Anybody?
I guess we just have our last bit
Go ahead.
there.
So
Finish
we got one more thing to show, and this is for our episode for next month. Much like any Nintendo Direct, we've got one more thing left to show. Oh, there we go. So what's going to be our episode for August? Oh, load. Yeah, man. Rogers, why? There we go. Aha! So, yep, episode 36 premiering in August will be about Power Rangers history in Canada. Not season by season, but it's more going to be showing the overall history of it. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting, especially when it came to like a lot of like
The recent legal stuff.
a lot of legality to it, yeah. Especially when it came to the idea of Canadian content. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting subject to look up, basically. But yeah, thank you very much for attending our panel. Thank you all. And remember, keep it weird and keep circulating the tapes.
What are these tapes you're talking about?
VHS tapes.